Last Tuesday, my phone rang at 2:47 in the morning. 22 years I've been a cardiac surgeon, and that phone call still makes my stomach drop every single time. Not because I don't know what's coming, because I do. A man, 64 years old. Healthy, his family said. Walked his dog every morning. Went to bed at 10 p.m. like he always did. Never woke up. I want to tell you about that man tonight, and 4 other patients I saw that same week. Because if you're over 60, or if you love someone who is, the 5 things that happen to them in the hours before midnight are almost certainly happening in your house too, right now, tonight. Stay with me until the end, because I'm also going to give you the exact routine I now hand to every single patient who leaves my operating room. It takes about 15 minutes to build into your evening, and it costs nothing. Here's what almost nobody understands about the heart at night. It doesn't switch off. It switches modes. In a healthy 40-year-old, blood pressure drops naturally after dark, usually 10 to 20% below the daytime average. Heart rate slows, arteries loosen up. It's maintenance mode, and your body has been running this program every night of your life without you noticing. But somewhere past 60, that maintenance program starts glitching. Arteries stiffen. The hormonal signals that used to manage blood pressure overnight get weaker and less precise. And the backup systems your body relies on during the day, the ones that compensate when something goes wrong, are mostly offline while you sleep. That's the real reason the window between midnight and 6 a.m. is statistically the most dangerous stretch of the day for heart attack and stroke in people over 60. Not rush hour, not a stressful afternoon. The quiet hours when nobody's watching, but your habits from the evening before are still running in the background. And that man who called me on Tuesday, his widow told me exactly what he ate when he took his pills and what his bedroom felt like that night. I'm going to walk you through 5 ordinary evenings I've reconstructed from patients like him, and what each one teaches you. Case 1, the late dinner Monday. A woman, early 70s, came in for a routine consult, and I asked her the question I ask everyone. What time did you eat dinner last night, and what was on the plate? She laughed. 9 o'clock, pasta. My husband's home late. We eat when he's home. I hear a version of that answer constantly. Full plate, pasta, rice, something fried, around 8, 9, sometimes 10 p.m. Then the couch, then bed an hour later. It feels completely normal. It is quietly one of the heaviest loads you can put on an aging heart. Digesting a large meal pulls a huge share of your blood supply toward your gut. Your heart has to work harder to keep up. Triglyceride levels, the fats circulating in your blood, spike within 2 to 4 hours of eating. Meanwhile, your body is trying to do the opposite. Wind down into overnight recovery. Those 2 jobs compete directly with each other, and in arteries that have already started stiffening, that tug-of-war can turn into a real event. The research backs this up plainly. Eating within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime is linked to higher nighttime blood pressure, more acid reflux that can mimic or even trigger cardiac symptoms, and a measurably higher rate of cardiovascular events overnight. The fix isn't a diet, it's a clock. Finish your main meal by 6 or 7 p.m. If life genuinely pushes dinner later, keep it light. Lean protein, vegetables, skip the heavy and fried. Case 2, the pill timing, Tuesday. The call I told you about. But before that, let me back up to what I learned afterward, because it's the piece his family didn't know to ask about. He took his blood pressure medication every morning with breakfast, like clockwork. What almost nobody explains to patients, including, frankly, a lot of doctors who don't take the time, is that for a significant number of people over 60, blood pressure doesn't fall at night the way it should. It stays high, or it actually surges in the early morning hours. It has a name, nocturnal hypertension. Most people have never heard of it. Here's why it's dangerous in a way daytime hypertension isn't. Your artery walls aren't built to absorb a pressure spike at 3 a.m., the same way they absorb one at 3 p.m. A nighttime surge is far more likely to rupture a fragile plaque inside a coronary artery, more likely to seed a blood clot, more likely to be the reason someone calls me at 2:47 in the morning. If your pills are working hardest during the day and fading by midnight, the hours you actually need protection are the hours you're least covered. This is a 2-minute conversation with your doctor. Ask directly whether your blood pressure medication should move to the evening. The Apnea chronotherapy trial, a large, well-known study on exactly this question, found that shifting blood pressure medication to nighttime significantly reduced cardiovascular risk during sleep. Not a minor tweak. Possibly the single most important 2 minutes you spend at your next appointment. Case 3. The snorer. Wednesday, a patient's wife pulled me aside after his appointment. "He snores so loud I sleep in the other room," she said, half joking. Should I be worried? Yes. I treat heavy snoring as a warning sign of heart disease until proven otherwise, and I mean that literally. Sleep apnea affects an estimated 30% or more of adults over 60. And the overwhelming majority walk around undiagnosed, with no idea what's happening to their heart every single night. Here's the mechanism, and it's brutal when you see it up close. Breathing stops. 10 seconds, 40 seconds, sometimes longer. Dozens of times an hour. Each pause drops blood oxygen. The brain reads it as an emergency and floods the body with adrenaline and cortisol. Heart rate spikes, blood pressure spikes. The heart gets jolted awake while the rest of the body stays asleep. Now multiply that by 30, 40, 50 times in a single night, every night, for years. The numbers are stark. Sleep apnea is linked to a 3-fold increase in heart attack risk, and it's strongly tied to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heart rhythm that sharply raises stroke risk. It also speeds up arterial stiffening. Loud snoring is the obvious sign. The quieter ones matter just as much. Waking with a headache, feeling wrecked despite a full night's sleep, frequent nighttime bathroom trips, a dry mouth in the morning, or waking up gasping. If any of that sounds like you or someone in your bed, ask your doctor about a sleep study. If you're over 60 with any history of heart disease or stroke and you snore heavily, that evaluation isn't optional. It's part of your cardiac care. CPAP isn't glamorous, but patients who stick with it show measurable drops in blood pressure, fewer atrial fibrillation episodes, and meaningfully lower cardiovascular risk. One device, enormous protection. Case 4. The dehydrated one. Thursday's patient told me proudly that she'd stopped drinking water after 4 p.m. "I don't want to be up all night going to the bathroom," she said, "and I don't want to fall in the dark." I understand that logic completely. I also had to tell her it's working against her. Mild dehydration thickens your blood, makes it more viscous, slower to move through your vessels. In a younger, flexible cardiovascular system, that's a minor inconvenience. In arteries that are already narrowed and stiffened, it's a different story. Thicker blood moves more sluggishly through tighter spaces, and it's more prone to clotting. Now stack that on top of what's already happening overnight. Your heart rate naturally slowing, your body lying motionless for 7 or 8 hours, slower circulation, thicker blood, a still body, and arteries that may already be partially blocked. That combination is one of the real reasons heart attacks and strokes cluster in the early morning. The fix costs nothing and takes 10 seconds. 1 full glass of water, about 8 ounces, before bed. Keep a second glass on your nightstand. If you wake up thirsty at 2 a.m., your body isn't being difficult. It's asking for exactly what your heart needs too. You don't have to trade sleep quality for heart protection. You can have both. Case 5. The thermostat Friday. Almost as an afterthought, I asked a patient what temperature he kept his bedroom at. He looked at me like it was a strange question. Most people never think about their thermostat as a cardiac decision. It is one. Too warm, above roughly 27 degrees, 72 degrees, and your body spends the whole night working to shed heat. Blood vessels dilate, heart rate stays elevated, you sweat more, you lose fluid, and you're right back to the dehydration problem from Thursday's patient. Sleep quality also drops, which means less time in the deep stages where your heart does its real overnight repair work. Too cold, below about 16-17 degrees, roughly 62 degrees, triggers the opposite problem. Blood vessels constrict to conserve core heat, blood pressure climbs, and the heart has to pump against more resistance. For someone already living with coronary artery disease or hypertension, that's not a trivial nighttime bump. The sweet spot is 18 to 22 degrees C, or 65 to 72 degrees C. Inside that range, your body stays thermally neutral, vessels relaxed, heart rate low and steady, sleep genuinely restorative. One thermostat setting, real protection, and it costs nothing. Synthesis, putting it together. 5 patients, 5 ordinary evenings, none of them dramatic on their own. That's exactly what makes this dangerous. None of it feels like a risk while it's happening. Here's how I now tell every patient to lay out their evening. By 6 or 7 p.m., dinner. Lean protein, vegetables, a reasonable portion. That gives your heart 3 to 4 hours to finish digesting before you're asleep. Right around then, water and medications. If you haven't had the evening dosing conversation with your doctor about blood pressure medication, that's tonight's homework. 8 to 9 p.m. Wind down. A short walk, a book, conversation, phone away. Screens suppress melatonin and keep your nervous system wired longer than it should be. By 9 p.m., set the room. Thermostat between 18 to 22 degrees, 65 to 72 degrees. Glass of water on the nightstand, under 2 minutes of effort. By 10 p.m., in bed. And if you or your partner snores, try sleeping on your side. It can meaningfully reduce airway obstruction while you arrange a proper sleep evaluation. I want to be straight with you for a second, not as a content creator, as a surgeon. I've stood over an operating table at 3 a.m. holding a heart that stopped because of a clot that formed overnight in a narrowed artery. I've sat with families in waiting rooms at dawn who had no idea anything was wrong when they said goodnight a few hours earlier. In case after case, the pattern isn't exotic. A late dinner, a missed dose, a room that was too warm, a body that was quietly dehydrated, a snore everyone assumed was harmless. None of that is rare. It's the background noise of millions of completely ordinary evenings. And repeated enough nights in a row, it becomes the heart attack nobody saw coming, because nobody knew where to look. 22 years in, here's what I've learned. Most of the hearts I've had to repair didn't fail from bad luck. They failed from missing information. Information the patient simply never got. You have it now. The only question left is whether tonight is the night you use it. Which of these 5 hits closest to home for you? The dinner, the pills, the snoring, the water, or the room? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone, and I promise you're not the only one who will recognize themselves. If someone in your life, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, is over 60 and has never connected their evening routine to their heart, send them this. It might be the most useful 2 minutes you share with them all year. Take care of the thing that's been working for you, uninterrupted, since before you can remember. Give it what it needs tonight.